Are we rolling?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yes, I am.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
Are you excited to be talking to me? You
like,
can't lie. Oh.
Listen,
Tell me.
I wouldn't be here if I wasn't.
Thank you.
I'm trying to be.
I appreciate it.
Trying to be cool.
Chill about it.
Cool, you know.
That's the Gen Z effect. Us youngins, you know what I mean?
Okay,
I understand
You're
it.
trying to not date me. Is that? Okay,
Don't worry, no, never. You're close now, John Alpha. I get it. That's what it is. Yes, it is.
You guys see me.
But hey, guys, I am here with
Alex Okosi.
Okay, so what I would like to do when I start my interviews is, because we're oftentimes talking to people who don't know who you are.
Of course.
Right? So I want you to...
They don't know who I am.
And imagine that, audacity. So I want you to tell them in just 2 sentences, not too much, who you are and why they need to listen to this conversation before we get started.
Alex Okosi. I am the managing director for Google and SSA. Excited about this conversation because it's a much different perspective in terms of what's going on this week. Yeah. And excited that you're here.
Thank you.
I think it's really important to have these conversations. We need to kind of be at the center because the creative economy for me is what it's all about. Yeah.
No, I was genuinely very surprised when I was like, oh, there's an interest in having creators in spaces like this, because it is relatively new. Like we're pretty much new to this. We're oftentimes seen as, we're just playing with our phones. We're always on TikTok. What do you say when you have peers who are in this conversation? They're like, we're not really interested in the creator's perspective. If there is conversations like that happening.
To be honest, I think that conversations like that were maybe happening years ago. Yeah. I think that, for someone like myself, my claim to fame was creativity.
Yes.
Right? Like I came
yes.
So I don't run into those conversations now because people understand the power of the creative economy and people like you. And I think that if anything, people are now trying to figure out, I just came off a panel now that I was moderating. And people are trying to figure out how do we actually make sure that we sustain growth in this space, unlocks opportunity, and people like you that are successful, how do we make even more successful? Yeah. And how do we kind of create more opportunities for other people? So I don't think there's those conversations
anymore. And I appreciate that. And I see that here with having the creator panel that we had yesterday where we're talking about what impact it is. So I think one of my first questions directly to you around the creative economy is, how do you see that barrier to entry now, especially with us wanting to be on that global stage? Because we see Afrobeats coming up into the American market, and you're one of the pioneers of trying to bring Africa to the world, right? We've heard that a lot, Africa to the world, Africa to the world. And I like to say that the creative economy is such a beautiful perspective because it's not one voice. It's like little tiny voices in different parts of the world. So what are some barriers you think we're currently facing, and how could you help?
No, look, I think that absolutely. I think that the barriers become when everyone gets excited, but they don't know what to do, right?
It's
but it's also a good thing, right? Because, unlike back in the day where if people say creative, people are like, are you mad? Why would you even want to go into the creative space? But
That's
people
true.
now
They
understand that you can actually be successful and really be yourself, right? Not everyone wants to be a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever else.
I was supposed to be a lawyer.
Exactly. Hey, but listen, you're doing your thing. I think that I'm actually more excited about the opportunity versus the barrier. I think that the real opportunity is how can you create content that's authentically you in your voice that enables you to then be able to resonate with other people. Like people want to see authentic voices, right?
That's true.
And if you look at the people that have really made it, it's because they found that thing that people want to see, and they were themselves in delivering it. So for me, I'm less worried about the barriers. I think there's more opportunity. There's platforms. Again, I'm gonna promote our platform. YouTube.
Of course.
But I'm actually a proponent of any platform that I'm an African. I'm an Africanist. I believe in our continent. I mean, that's my first bias. I tell people all the time.
Absolutely.
So for me, any platform that provides an opportunity for young Africans or young people in general to thrive, I'm all about, right? So I think that what young people need to understand is that this is not easy.
It's not.
What you're doing, rocking up the cameras, thinking about what you're going to say, having conversation with people like me that you may not have conversation with any day, being well put together, knowing how to, you know what I'm saying? That is
very hard.
That's not something that you luck into. And I think education is what I want people to understand, that no matter what you're doing,
you have to be intentional about that. Yeah.
Intentional. I love that.
Absolutely.
And also be really excellent at it. You can't become a movie producer tomorrow when you don't even use your phone to create content.
That's
right.
True.
So I think that's what the opportunity is.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so I went to a summit a few weeks ago in Dallas, and there was a lot of YouTube creators. And first of all, the African representation there was maybe 0.005%, but that's a conversation for another day. And a lot of on the panels, a lot of the conversation that we're having was around AI, right? And I know Google has been at the forefront of this AI conversation. So from a creator's perspective, and as someone who's also been a pioneer, the conversation you have most of the time with my peers are like, they're terrified of it. They're scared. They're like, we're not sure how that'll be impactful. As a creator, you're like, my ideas and who I am is what makes me as a creator. How do you see that changing for the better, for worse? What would you say to me?
I would say to you, listen, it's like, it's making AI can make creativity much easier, right? So for someone like yourself that's creative, imagine now what you can do with some of the AI tools that enables you to actually be able to generate images, right? That you would have had to go out with a camera and try to find before.
Yes, true.
To be able to generate ideas that maybe you would have had to kind of like, it's actually being able to, you know, provide you even more ways to be able to apply your work in this vast canvas, right? So I think that's the opportunity. And I think that it can make creativity much easier.
Absolutely.
Much faster.
Absolutely.
And in some way, shape or form can enable you to now really scale the work that you do. So I think that's the opportunity.
Yes.
Of course, there's the risk of
freak, you know?
Of course, there's a risk of like people, you know, being able to sort of, you know, rip up your stuff and do whatever they want with it. However, that's why I really love the work that we do on our platform on YouTube, right? And I know this is kind of like self-promotion, but I love what
it's true. I'm a YouTuber. I understand that. Yeah.
Because, you know, our focus is on making sure that we protect your intellectual property and making sure that people can't just cannibalize your stuff and then and then you're not able to benefit from it. So I think with the combination of those two, creators should really be more excited about, how can I actually leverage AI and the creative freedom, more creative freedom I can gain from it to create more content? But for you, what's your perspective?
I work with a company whose entire goal is using AI to make creativity easier. And I think you hit this right on the head. It really is to make your life easier. And it has absolutely changed my game, especially with creating content ideation. I feel like it helps you not be as isolated as a creator, right? I think for a lot of us, when we're creating, you're in your room, you're with your camera, your laptop off time, you're not talking to anybody. You're sort of like, it's a solo sort of career when you first start. I think with AI, it feels like, and this might be a soapbox answer, but it feels like you're working with a friend now. I think that's why I'd like to tell a lot of my friends and peers, that's an extra brain of other people who also added to that brain to help you create something really magical. So it's pretty impactful that way.
But beyond the AI conversation, for you as a creator, are there barriers still that you feel like you need to break? And what are they? Look, I think it's important for me. We are at the sidelines of this incredible UN event, right?
Yeah.
People are talking about creativity. People are talking about all those things.
Yeah.
But and what I love is that we actually can hear from the creators
about it.
So it's not some like, older generation folks trying to talk about the opportunity, but it's you here. And that's why I want to ask this question. What are some of the things that you think still need to happen in the ecosystem to enable creators like you to thrive?
Investment. Honestly, truly, that's what it is. I think folks need to start recognizing that creators are brands, and it works vice versa, right? Like as a creator, you need to start showing up seriously for folks to buy into it. I think there's so many ideas I've had, and the biggest thing is capital. How can I fund this? How can I fund this dream show I want to create on YouTube? What does that production value look like? And I tend to see it from my peers' perspective of, in the United States, it's harder to have buy-in and finding that money versus like folks in the UK on the continent and vice versa. So I think a lot of things...
No, wait. You think it's harder to get money in the continent?
I'm telling you, it's easier. It's easier to get money on the continent. I'm telling you.
How? Please explain.
Okay.
No, give me let's.
It's true.
Give me how do you think that works? Because people are like, the Americans are getting more money, not us.
And I know. I think the cost of production, I feel like, is different. And I'm saying this maybe selfishly from a very narrow perspective of like the Nigerian production economy, right? Like seeing the quality of content creators in Nigeria are able to make with what they have versus folks here who, if I wanted to create something of that similar magnitude, having to spend about $6,000 to $10,000 to do so, right? So a lot of us, we do have the access of the phone, but there's difference with the production labor, I would say, on the continent versus here too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So now this is a question I have for you. Or at least an idea, right? Okay. Creativity today, you can like
do anything
outsource,
with it.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like literally,
absolutely.
You don't have to,
and that's what I tend to do.
I knew that you, because that's the opportunity, right? Like, so I know it's an old story, but initially when we launched MTV and we're trying to get music video production quality here, because we knew if it was better, people want to see it. And they want to see the artist. They want to see the artist can now travel.
Yeah.
There was a guy, and he was genius. He literally got on a plane and moved this production initially. Before Nigerian production went like this, moved production to South Africa because he knew they can like transfer by whatever. So every artist was not going to South Africa to produce, but he was Nigerian.
I remember that, yes.
Right? So now I ask you, and you've already alluded to it, if you feel like the production economy or costs are cheaper on the continent, why don't you find people to do your
That's
stuff?
What we do. That's what we do.
Which is great because you know exactly what? They make some money.
Exactly. So I think
you get it the cost that helps you.
That's the connection within the diaspora and the continent. So that's what I like to tell a lot of creative is around the world, like I like to say, like America has the dollars and the continent has the engagement and the capacity. So why not bridge that gap and have that happen properly?
I see you. Okay, what are some investable spaces in your company that I should be thinking about?
Several. We could talk. Spill some tea, you know?
I say that not jokingly because I actually like your thinking and your mind in terms of that. Because again, it's not about just being able to create content. It's about how do you make it work?
How do you make it
financially work? How do you make it return?
Because I feel like I'm hoping, and I think it's getting there where creators are becoming businesses, right? We see like the Mr. Beasts of the world. I want to see African creators doing that same thing. And a lot of I'm actually going to ask you about this. So I have a ton of friends in the Nigerian creator economy, and they've hit a plateau. They've hit that spot. Like they have 10 million subscribers, 5 million subscribers on YouTube, for example. And they call me to ask me, what's the American market like? And so for you, what do you think what has been your understanding since you've seen a lot of this transition from like the continent to here? What are some advice you would give on how to bridge that market to come from here to here?
Okay. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it. Okay. And please know that I don't want to insult anyone by thinking that it's simple. But I always think about what are the practical things I would do, right? So because I worked on YouTube and I was in charge of markets like Africa, Middle East, Turkey, Russia, before the conflict or the war, I was able to see creators from different markets actually make sure that they monetize their content outside of those markets, right? And that doesn't mean because they're Nigerian citizens in the US, that's what you should just cater to. It means, does your content have enough relevancy where if it's comedy, I'm laughing at it, whether I'm from Brooklyn, Jamaica.
I said that on a panel yesterday.
Because the reality is this, right? Most people, like, that's what's been powerful about digital. Most people laugh, enjoy the stuff, and they don't care where it's from. They just feel like there's an entertainment value.
Absolutely.
If you're talking about whatever, fashion. People are no longer thinking, oh, this is
kind of fashion. Is this?
No, they're going to be like, oh, wow,
that's cool.
She is incredibly, like, she knows this stuff, and I'm going to watch this content. So what I say to people is, think about how relevant is your content. It doesn't mean, again, I tell people, don't stop blowing funny just to now be accessible.
That's
you
true.
You can still be yourself, right? If you think about the greatest
Look at that Shake right now. Singing Yoruba in Madison Square Garden.
I don't know any word that guy is saying, but no, I think that the most powerful thing that I always laugh at is I sit in my car and my 2 children are in the back, 6 and 8, and my wife, who doesn't understand Yoruba, are blowing Ashake songs, and I know all those words. They don't know what I don't even know what it means.
Right? Just singing along.
But again, when I say that to say, yes, music is a little bit easier to travel.
I think comedy is our biggest export.
But anything that you do, can you do it in a way where it's accessible? And accessibility is when someone is watching you, do they feel like
I can part for that? Yes.
And for me, that's what I say to people all the time is like, it's not magic. Right? There's a reason why people have broken boundaries that are not from particular, and I think that's true. That's what on-demand content has had to offer, right? Like we think about the biggest shows in the world.
You're right.
They're not in English now. Right? And people access them because they're like, oh, there's that amazing show, or there's that amazing creator. And that's what I asked people to say. Have you really put your mind into how do you make your content
accessible for everyone as well?
Accessible?
How's the company leveraging AI to create economic opportunities for African creators?
Look, I think that when you think about, for instance, YouTube as an example, one of the things that I get excited to talk about is like, AI has helped us now bring more languages on Google Translate. Right? So as a proudly Igbo person, I'm not tribalist though. I just want to make sure I'm an Africanist to speak with. It's exciting, right? To be able to now know that on Translate, you can find Igbo, you can find a whole bunch of different African languages now. So if I'm creating content in those spaces, right, I can definitely leverage that technology to make sure that I have content that people can resonate with from a translation perspective, etc. I think that's really powerful. And I think that, again, the art of creation is, can people understand it, right? Like if you look at some of the best shows on SVOD today, like wherever it is, whether it's Netflix or whatever on VOD, a lot of it is subtitled, right?
Yeah, that's true.
It's not even dubbed. Like I actually like to watch shows that are subtitled versus than dubbed, because then dubbed, I'm like, this person should not sound like this though.
Like, wait a minute.
You know, so I think that, again, those are some of the things that we're doing. But I also think that being able to now have more creative tools, are some of the ways that I think AI can be able to kind of sort of help our creatives on the ground. But I just think that, again, one of the things I've seen is that from an Africa perspective, all our folks need to see is where the bar is, and they'll exceed it. And I think that, you know, the more we're able to sort of help them understand how to monetize their content, the more that you're going to have. I truly believe that African creators are going to be at the top of the chart.
Yes, absolutely.
I think they are, because again, we just, you know, we got flavor.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, no, I feel like you've answered a lot of my questions that I had for you.
Okay.
I think my biggest thing is, again, making sure like the creative economy, the creators are represented in the entertainment industry right now, right? We see music being exported, we see like Nollywood being on Afrem, all these other streaming services and so on. So I think, what would you think, or what advice do you have for creators who are creating? Because we do that on YouTube, right? We have shows, but do you think there's still a lot more to do from our end to show that we're serious, we're here to stay?
No, I don't think it's about seriousness. Okay. I think it's really about, you know, before you create, think about who do I want my audience to be? And is there enough of that?
Yeah, okay. That's true.
So that, because is there enough of them to then be able to, for me to then go make sure that they can, now I got to think about how do I reach that, right? Because, you know, I say this to people all the time, if I'm going to make really niche content, I better make sure that niche is going to niche it back to me. Otherwise, it's going to be a challenge. So I think it's about, listen, and also it's not an overnight thing.
It's not. It's a long... I think
people will see it all the time. We talked about music. Ashake was dancing. Was a dancer.
I've been working hard.
You've been working, but when people see the success now,
maybe I think it's overnight.
They think Burna Boy. I know when I was doing Burna on stage, I don't know how many people were to watch.
That's
but now,
true. The story is, you see it,
So I think that it's work.
Yeah.
It's like anything else in life. You want to be excellent at something, you got to put in the work and the time to learn the industry.
To do it. I think that's where I want to talk to a lot of my fellow creatives about, is I don't think we understand, especially the younger ones, right? Because if you ever get a viral video on TikTok or anywhere else, like YouTube Shorts, if you ever get a viral video on YouTube Shorts, for example, you can get 11 million views, and then you're like, oh, I've made it. Exactly.
That's what
and so at the end of the day now, I'm having to tell people to realize that's just the beginning. That's not even the beginning for a lot of you. That's just a drop in the story, because it's so much to do with branding and access and working hard and practice to even get to a point where like you're a show, you're a brand in itself. And I think a lot of creators don't remember to do that work, and it needs to happen.
Because we live in a likes economy, right? And I think that, you know, I think it's great. So don't get me wrong. I think it's really, really important to make sure that you have people that are engaging with you X, Y, Z. Yeah. The question is, how are you monetizing that engagement?
Yeah.
Number one.
True.
And then, how do you make sure that you have a community that are going to support you because they truly have value?
Exactly.
Find value in what you do. Not just that one viral video, but like you have other things that are coming. And there's value attached to it, right? So I think that's the challenge, where people feel like they're blown, and then you gotta think, okay, on what platform?
Yeah, that's true. That's
true. And what's the return on that? So I think but also I think there's a lot of education that people also need to understand. How do you work with brands?
Yeah.
How do you brand yourself?
Yeah.
What do you bring to?
That's true.
And I think the beauty of it is that it is so democratized today. It's no longer about the gatekeeper. When I worked in traditional media, it was like,
this is
content. We package it ourselves, we put it out, and then you're just the creators are effectively just actors, right?
Yeah.
Like they're participants.
Yeah.
Now you have to think about yourself as media companies, right? Like you have to think about, okay, how do I get this business to work?
Mm-hmm.
And that takes time.
It does.
And not everyone has the patience for it. Not everyone has the wherewithal to understand it. So continuing to educate yourself, we need to talk to people, continue to have patience, and look at it as there's a long game to this. Is a career.
It's a career.
If you don't want to make it a career, then don't do it. That's my advice.
All right, my last question.
Yes.
What is one word that you use to describe like the African creator? Like, what is something when you hear that phrase or term African creator, what's one word that comes to mind?
Wow, there's so many that come to mind. So I'll pick up the one that, you know, you know how you kind of like have a bubbles coming into your head, which is, I think the African creator is powerful.
I
think the African creator is powerful. Because I've seen it, right? I've seen that, right? Like Lupita Nyong'o got her acting debut on MTV.
Wow.
Sugar, right? Her acting debut on MTV Sugar. Hands down. She will corroborate that story. So she was able to do that. And she's an Oscar winner, right?
Yeah.
Again, because all these are creators. The African artists that you see got all of the exposure on MTV based. Now, I'm not trying to say that to yourself.
No, yeah.
And now you have a platform like YouTube and other platforms that explodes that even to the world on a minute-by-minute basis, right? Yeah. Just the African creator is so powerful. Think about someone like a Trevor Noah, what he did over the last few years.
Yeah.
Coming into American culture.
Yeah.
As an African. You know, Trevor
was different.
Trevor's English was still very he wasn't trying to blow funny like he's from Brooklyn.
He was very him. Yeah.
And still was able to resonate.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why I say I see that. There's I know there. What we have to.
Yeah.
We just have so much which is
we do have flavor.
It's just now how do you able to sort of catalyze that power.
Monetize it.
And be able to make it happen. And monetize it.
Yeah.
Monetize it. You gotta make some money. I want you broke.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking to me. Thank you for incredible gems. We're like taking all the notes.
I
appreciate it.